Remember, to watch the full session, head over to our free learning platform where you can watch and download all of our free resources.
Did you study one matter at a time, or did you study in parallel multiple things?
Wow. So the question is, what did I study? Was it parallel or was it multiple things at the same time? I think the first thing I studied was Quran. So my focus was on memorization. That was my first thing, and Arabic. So that was my focus, but not for very long. No. Because alhamdulillah, I went quite quickly through memorization. As I said before, around 5-6 pages a day. So it goes quite quick. Arabic, I've learned quite quickly as well, because I invested my time immediately in Ajrumiya. I embraced Islam in 94, was studying Ajrumiya in 95, and was studying Alfiya in 96. So as you see, it went quite quickly, right? So, and I was memorizing the poems like Alfiya ibn Malik and others already before the 2000s. So that means in the first 5 years of my being Muslim, my core was Quran and Arabic. But at the same time, I was studying. Meaning that before I left for Jordan in 2002, I was studying with Shaykh Abd Salam al-Kharras al-Maghribi. He was a scholar of one of the greatest scholars I've ever seen. And we would have a traject with him. So I studied with him from 97. That means like 3 years or 2 years and a half after I embraced Islam. We started with Usul al-Fiqh, Mustalah al-Hadith, Nahu, and Fiqh, and Tawheed. So, and we in Mustalah Hadith, we first did Taysir Mustalah Hadith of al-Tahan. Then we did Nukhbatul Fikr with Nuzhatul Nadar. That is what we then did with him. In Nahu, we went from Al-Ajrumiya straight to Alfiyat ibn Malik with the Sharh of Ibn Aqil. So that was then in Arabic. Then in Usul al-Fiqh, we first did Ma'alim Usul al-Fiqh عند أهل السنة والجماعة, and then we did Al-Waraqat fi Usul al-Fiqh. And then in Fiqh, we did Rawdatul Nadiya by Siddiq Hassan Khan, who was a former Hanafi, but then after he's traveled to Saudi Arabia, yani turned into a Salafi kind of person, but it's a very interesting book in 3 volumes with the tahqiq of Shaykh al-Halabi. Then we did in Hadith, we did first Umdatul Ahkam, then Bulugh al-Maram, and then we had Tafsir with him of Ibn Kathir, and then we also had Kitab al-Tawheed by Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab that he would explain as well. So that was my program with him. I would go to him 4 days per week. After my job, I was a post-delivery man then. I would wake up at 4. Then around 5, I would leave for my job. Then I would work for 8 hours, come back home, eat, drink, and then I would go by train for an hour and a half, 2 hours to travel to Brussels, stay there for 3 hours, come back. And when I was back home, it was about 11:30 at night, and then I would translate books until 1 o'clock, and then I would wake up at 4 again. And I did this for quite some time. That is what my time looked like when I was let us say that was up to 2000. So then I was 24. So between my 20 and 24, that's how I partially lived. So the majority of my studies were not when I was not working. It was when I was working, sometimes even 16 hours per day. Right before I left to Jordan, I was working 16 hours a day. So it all depends. So that was my trajectory. And then I was at the same time listening to all the tapes of Muhammad bin Salih al-Uthaymeen rahimahullah, and I would write them down by hand. So I would listen to the Shaykh, then I would write down his classes, then I would write an index for his classes, then I would memorize what he said, the key points, and then I would add to his explanation. So if he explained Al-Ajrumiya, then I would go to the explanation of Muhyiddin Abdul Hamid, and then add the ta'arif by Muhyiddin Abdul Hamid to what I had written of Muhammad bin Salih al-Uthaymeen, and I listened to tens of different classes which all had 50, 60, 70 tapes, meaning hundreds, thousands of hours. So that were like the 5 first years of my Islam. And after that, there was a journey of 25 years. So that were my 5 first years. Yeah. So I'm sorry, I forgot to add in that period as well. I went to Holland, where I would study with Shaykh Abu Suhaib, where we did Bidayatul Mujtahid of Ibn Rushd. where it was comparative fiqh studies, where we did al-waraqat fi usul al-fiqh, where we did subul al-salam, the sharh of bulugh al-maram, and where we would do al-waraqat, and where I did al-ajrumiyah and also tajweed. So I was doing that at the same time in the first 5 years. So I'm not allowed to forget that person as well. So they were both Salafi oriented, but they were very structured, very structured, mashallah. And so, yeah, alhamdulillah, I really owe them a lot.